Welcome, everyone, and thanks for dropping in on another episode of Topic UFO. One thing I really love about this whole UFO subject is that there are just so many facets to it. You can talk about it at the global level, you can talk about it at the regional level, and then you can branch off into smaller and smaller tributaries until you finally get down to the individual. Different individuals have different thoughts and theories on what the whole UFO thing is about, what it's connected with, how it's connected. And tonight, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. So I'd like to introduce at this time Miss Jeana Taylor. And I met her through Facebook. She has a group page on Facebook called Truth Seekers. And I was noticing a lot of the verbiage going back and forth, the comments, and I just thought it would make for a very interesting show. So I think what we'll do at this time is just not waste any time and bring Jeana on. So Jeana, are you out there?
I sure am, Rick. Hi, it's nice to talk to you.
Thank you. It's very nice to talk to you, and thanks for agreeing to come on the show and discuss your thoughts and theories on some of the stuff that's going on in the world today.
Well, it's my pleasure. That's a big topic.
It can
Absolutely,
be,
isn't it?
It can be.
It sure is, especially right now. It seems like daily. Things are compounding, and so yeah, I'm a prepper by trade. That's what Truth Seekers started as, a page to just kind of get prepared. About a year ago, I started getting a little, just vibe, intuition that things weren't quite right. Started searching, studying.
Was there anything in particular that really made you snap and start thinking about this stuff?
Paine Andov, Paneandov, his timeline of events for 2012 was the one. Oh yeah, it's 2.5 hours, and you won't believe it. It tells every crop circle from back. Well, I always knew that crop circles were communication. They were too intricate, and too real. They changed the DNA structure of the plant,
Wow.
And even airplanes flying over the center of crop circles, pilots won't do it. Their engages and things quit working. So it's something bigger than the college students, walking in at night with a couple of 2x4s and some ropes and trying to bend a creative thing.
Yeah,
There were things going on. And so I started studying crop circles. I got a book on crop circles a few years ago. And I love language and words and things, and I knew that this was a language. I didn't understand it, and I still don't. But I knew it was communication. And then I started realizing it was planets. And in my search, when I found Paine Andov, or Panay, I don't know how you'll say it. I would say, I don't know where he's even from. But he's giving a speech on the timeline. He was actually abducted when he was young. And so he wrote down all these events that were going to happen. And sure as the world, they happened. And these were facts. He put these facts out there years ago. This crop circle in 1976 was saying this, and sure enough, it happened. So that really got me thinking, oh, no, I knew there's something out there was telling us something. And I've never seen a UFO. I wait, I look. I don't need to see one to believe in them. I know they exist. You'll see in this video, if you ever do watch this Andov gentleman, the crop circles being formed right there with nothing around them. And right after that, then they started planting the planets. They started picturing the planets, but they weren't right. The winged dragon coming in crop circles. Well, that brought up the winged planet stitching to me, so I read the 12th planet. And from there on, then my research took me to Marshall Masters, to Major Ed Dames, who is
yes.
Absolutely. So all these gentlemen, George Norrie, Coast to Coast. I mean, even Alex Jones, although Alex Jones is more about the government, but now I've even come to the conclusion that, yes, our government has known about this 12th planet coming in, Nibiru. It's not actually, they call call it Nibiru, but it's not actually a planet. It's a solar system.
Yeah, well, now
I don't know if you realize that.
yeah, let me stop you there for just a second because I really want to talk about this Nibiru. Um, and let me tell you what I know about it, which is
Okay.
very little, and then you can guide me to what's correct.
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, I'm a student as well, but I'll do my best to tell you my comprehension. You know, everybody's kind of on their own with it, and that's
Well,
the
yeah,
unfortunate thing.
it sounds like it.
You know,
Now,
right?
if you go out on the internet and do a search on Nibiru, um, you're going to get all sorts of different feedback on it. But I guess the most scientific explanation is that, like you said, this is not a planet. It was what we used to think of as Neptune, but it's actually it sits in between the eighth and ninth orbit, and like you said, it's actually some type of planetary object that moves from
It's an
planetary
entire
system,
solar system. It's an entire solar system.
and it
It's
moves.
coming with planets, and it's headed this direction. It's on a, I'm not exactly sure of the number, 3,500-year orbit or 35,100-year orbit or something. It's coming in from underneath our planet. It's hidden behind the sun right now, and in just a very short time, it's going to be visible. And that's why we're having this solar flare reactions, is because of this magnetic pull. This thing is a solar system, and it is coming loaded with millions of particles of red iron oxide. Now, I learned that from NASA Insider Speaks Out is a wonderful video. I saw that almost a year ago. That's the first time that red iron oxide came up. Then I started seeing the pictures, and there's this red wings coming off of it. So my logic, I started looking, and then sure enough, less than a month ago, NASA comes out and said there's some kind of red iron oxide object, but they're not sure what. Well, you know, that's when I start, something has to really click with me, and really click from several reputable sources. You know,
Right.
I'm not easily convinced. But I tell you what I do think. I think that our government knew about Nibiru coming our way back in the late 70s. I think that they decided in the scoundrelly way that our government makes things work for them, that they sat there and decided right then that this was a way to get control of the sheeple. And so they were going to start focusing on keeping us really busy, really focused on soccer moms and American Idol and all that stupid stuff that really doesn't matter. They were going to build bunkers. They were going to harbor themselves, get ready for safety, and then they were going to tell us it was our fault with global warming. And now what have we got? Carbon tax.
Yeah.
They're even taxing the farmers for their cows' flatulence. That's true. There's a tax per cow.
Cow farts. We're talking. They're
Farts. There's a
taxing cow
tax.
farts.
There's a tax per cow for their gas emissions. It was all a manipulative plan. They knew they couldn't do anything about this planet, and they didn't want to tell us that it's coming with, I don't know, some people say that they call the biggest, I guess, orb in the system Nibiru, but she has planets with her, and she has manned, or not manned, being-driven. She's accompanied. And that's why we're seeing all these UFO clusters right now. They're all gathering around to watch what happens.
So,
The Anunnaki
wait,
are coming.
now wait a minute. So you're saying that this Nibiru is an intelligently controlled solar
Very possibly.
system that is
Very,
traveling through the universe. It is on a course that will bring it, well, we haven't got to that part yet, but I'm assuming it'll bring it very close to the Earth, or
Right.
is it going to suck us into its...
There are several different theories on that. Some people say that at the center of it is a black hole, and it's going to line us up with the Milky Way, that hole in our Milky Way galaxy. And at that point, there's that all-seeing eye that comes back on the top of our dollar, that comes back to the Mayan calendar, the Aztecs, all of them. And in that moment that the sun could possibly go supernova, consume Venus and another planet, so it's going to go 20 to 25% brighter, and at that point the solar flare, see, our shields are down. Our shields are down. We have holes in our atmosphere. We used to have an atmospheric protection from these things. Well, less than a year ago, the solar flares got so bad that they had to change the rating from a 4 to a 5. They had to give it another 10 degrees. The solar flares were so bad. Well, by the time these solar flares hit our electric grid, it's ancient. Now, don't you think our government would have invested in that electric grid if they would have thought they could have done anything about it? They would have spent the money on the infrastructure to change the dams for the floods and things. I think they knew all along they couldn't do a darn thing, and so instead they dug holes for themselves and left us out here on our own to figure out what's going on. And so yesterday I go to Walmart. I rarely shop there. I do believe it's part of the problem. I tried to find regular lamp oil, and everybody had this citronella torch oil. Well, I want to prepare for indoors, and that stuff says do not use indoors. So I just wanted clear lamp oil. 3 previous stops, I ended up at Walmart. I needed lamp oil in my bug-out room. And so I went in, and sure enough, they had it. So I found the lamp oil, got 6 bottles, and then I found the emergency awareness aisle, big cans of things like I had been ordering. Everyone's been ordering that's been preparing. Food's going to be a real issue. We might be in the dark for days to months. Expect no power. This grid's going to go out. The grid is as old as, I am, and I'm 53.
Well, we're the exact same age.
Absolutely. This grid is ancient. They just keep compiling on it. Well, I think our government was smart enough to say, this is bigger than us. Let's just dig a hole. That sounds just like, to be honest, the snakes that are leading us.
Well, I tell you, Jeana, when you talk about the electrical grid, I have no qualms that, solar flares could knock out the infrastructure.
Not only that, EMPs are a real risk, and that's a military false flag tool where they release a nuclear cloud just above us, or we could release it on ourselves. Has the 911 stink to it, and then blame. Some say we could blame Syria. If something's going to happen, it's military. They're on the ground. Major Ed Dames had hundreds of these remote viewers, and they all came out of separate rooms, drawing different military people. Some of them had swastikas on their arms, but all the soldiers were looking up at the sky and then running home. Weren't even tending to their war anymore.
Well,
and so,
hold on just a second here, because we're getting pretty deep. We're getting pretty deep
Absolutely.
here, and it's I find it fascinating, I must say. So let's say, for instance, that we do have some major solar flare, electromagnetic pulse, wipes out our electrical grid. It could wipe out integrated circuits. I mean, it could just devastate not only this country, but the entire world, right?
For anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 years.
Is that what they're estimating?
Absolutely, yes. It could take up to 6 years.
Now, so let me stop you there and ask you, if the worst were to happen and we were to have some type of electromagnetic pulse or solar flare that brought things down for 6 years, I mean, is there really anything people could do to prep themselves enough to last that long? Or is it just do the best you can type of thing?
Well, if you have unlimited resources and money, the ideal situation, of course, you build you a little place up on the mountain. I did the best I could. I listened to the majority of the experts, and they said move at least 100 miles from the coast, and I did that. And they said at least 1,000 feet elevation, and I'm at 1,500 feet. And I made that move 4 months ago with a full basement.
And you did this specifically because,
Absolutely.
really?
Because you better get out of the city, because the minute that power grid goes down, the stores only have, I didn't realize this, but most of the stores anymore don't have those big warehouse backups. The trucks come in daily.
Oh, yeah, it's
There won't
just
be
in time shipping.
there won't be a gallon of gas pumped without electricity. They're all electric pumps.
Hmm.
They say if your car is running at the time, it will stop. If it's not running, it may be okay. It needs to be protected by lead. So I have lead covers that we sit on our little ignitions of my vehicles.
Now, do you associate with other people in your neighborhood or anything? Do they know you have this stuff?
I have one neighbor that is of the same mindset, and he watches us and we watch him. And no, anymore, I'm worried actually about this weekend. I don't know if you've been hearing about the Euro and Greece.
Right.
And the pullout, and some people say by Monday, money might not be accessible. So that's really scary to me, because I have done without. I've lived hard times. I'm worried about the people that have never had to, always had that credit card, always, didn't have a clue. I can remember my husband and I living in a cabin in the woods, and the landlord wouldn't fix the septic 20 years ago, and we hauled buckets up out of the river because the cabin was so cheap and so amazing that we didn't want to leave it till we just finally had to. He wouldn't fix it. But, so we know hard times. We loved camping for weeks at a time, and we know what it takes. And still, I'm not prepared. I didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough time. I've only had a year, and I've spent every single extra dime we've had.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there.
A lot of things.
A lot of people out there have never had to, never lived on the streets, never had a hard day in their life. They're going to be the first ones to go if it were to happen.
Right.
Let's go back a bit, and I want to ask you your thoughts on some of this UFO activity that has been happening. I did a show earlier this month regarding the UFO flap in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri area. And from what I understand, it's been going on since November of 2011, but it actually made it to national news.
Which is really surprising, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We just had a report of several UFOs in Oregon.
Yes, I know. I saw that.
Now, you had mentioned that you feel these UFOs are in some way connected to this Nibiru phenomenon, but what exactly do you think they're here for? Are they?
Well, I hate to tell you what my studies have found.
Well, I know.
My studies found that we are a genetic modification of an Anunnaki experiment, these 10 to 12 foot tall giants years ago. And I know that really faltered with my raising of, Jesus gets you into heaven, and that's just the way it was. And so I had to kind of rationalize that all these people, all these ancient texts, were telling the same story. Something big was coming back. And I think that it's the cycle that was set in motion. Actually, it probably in the beginning of creation. I think that ever so often, man takes advantage of the planet just about enough. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's just Mother Nature's cleanup. To be honest.
I agree with, I believe in this Anunnaki thing.
We were here to mine gold.
Yeah, that's one of the theories, and it's possible, very possible. The amount of evidence that they're starting to find now.
Yes, the skulls, the bones, right?
Yeah, the writings. They're finding these tablets and everything else. But I guess um, I guess my question would be, um, when this Nibiru starts to come closer and closer, it's going to have effects on the gravitational pull and the tidal waves and all that.
It already is. You know, we set 1,000 heat waves in America last week.
Is that
We
right?
broke a thousand heat records, over 1,000. There were 105 earthquakes by 8 a.m. this morning Pacific time. Now, that might not seem like much, but if you go on the U.S. map and see by the end of every day, we're up at close to the 1,000 at the end of the day. This planet's rocking. She's holding on, like you're on a car on a bumpy road and you want that guy to slow down. You know, she's holding on, but she's rocking. Have you looked at any of the satellite images anymore? All the planets are now oval. Even Earth, from Google Earth, we're all oval. Google Sky, the
I
planets
have
are
not.
oval, and that's the gravitational tug that's going on. It's that centrifugal force, I guess, that's actually changing. You know, we're having a pole shift. Our pole shifted, 52 miles the day of the Japan earthquake, or something like that. I'm not sure about the numbers, but a significant amount.
I
Look
know we
at
did have a pole shift. I don't know
big time. We're
how much it
miles
was.
daily, almost miles a day now.
So
Yes,
so
nothing is
back to
the
this
same.
UFO thing. Back to the
Okay.
UFOs.
Okay.
Um, ha, Again, we were talking about how they could be connected, and you were saying, well, we are this offspring or genetic experiment, which is a whole nother discussion in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why are they here now? I mean, are they getting seats to watch the cataclysm or
Absolutely.
what?
Well, I think they're watching the red dragon, the red Jeana, whatever civilization's name for it you want to call it, Nibiru, Vex, the whole thing. I think they want to see it come through, see the result. They were here in the beginning. They saw it the first time. They tableted it to us. They tried to pass it on, and I think they're going to clean up the gold and, I think it's not just going to be animals. I think we're going to meet reptilians for the first time, and I never would have said that a year ago in my life, but I think they're going to be standing, and right in front of me, I think I'll see shape-shifting and everything. I think that it's all going to come with Planet X.
Well, I tell you, one thing that I find interesting is if you take human beings, excuse me, if you take that out of the equation, nature has its own ways and processes to maintain proper population, to maintain the cycle of
The ebb
life,
and the
all of that.
flow. Yes, absolutely.
But man, I mean, there is no
It's our
way.
ego, I think. I think it's our ego.
Well, there's no way that we will be able to continue to support the amount of population growth that this planet has of human population.
Right. And that exact thought came to my mind, so I started doing some research, I think it was about 2 months ago, and started actually studying Atlantis. And, they had the same problems that we had when, I guess it was Planet X that came through at that time. There's actual pyramids under there. You can see them with moss growing over them, and the big gargoyle statues way at the bottom of the sea. And I think that Atlantis was a greedy land, and that's what my research has been showing me anyway, and that they got cleaned up, and that scares me because I see so much greed and corruption. We deal with homeless people. It's just awful. And you want to help, but you can't. I mean, you can't help them all.
People tend to think of things in very short timelines. And, they think, well, within my lifetime, The population isn't going to be, it'll be a lot, but it's not going to be that bad. That's just a very small glimpse of time, right? When you start
Right.
looking out hundreds of years, um, unless we were to stop people from having children, this planet is going to be so overpopulated that we simply will not be able to uh, support it.
No, absolutely not. I
You
do
know,
believe, though, that in the late 70s, when they first knew about Planet X, they could, if they would have thought there was, seems like any hope at all. To me, the common logic would have been to set up wind power, to set up solar power, to stop sucking the oil out of the crust of the earth. Changing those plates down there. Just stop tampering. Stop with the emissions. Find wind power. Find clean alternatives. It seems to me like had in the 70s, late 70s, when they first discovered that this planet was real and it was incoming, that there would have been some time, had they thought in any way at all that they could have done anything. It seems to me that they would have fixed the river systems if they would have thought they could have kept this flooding from happening. They're saying that the Mississippi is going to become 100 miles wide.
yeah, well, it's
You
on a
know,
fault. It's definitely a
right?
major
Absolutely.
fault.
The New
So,
Madrid fault. Absolutely.
so if I'm understanding you right, are you saying that Nibiru is on its way here to basically wipe us out so that they
Well,
can
I
restart and try again, or
maybe that's one theory. Another theory is it just comes close in this regular run, and it wipes out a lot of people. They say that our infrastructure in America was built knowing that we were going to be overpopulated and knowing that one day that they were going to have to do something. That's why the biggest 50 cities, or almost the biggest 50 cities in our country, are built at sea level or 500 feet above. They say there's or water level, maybe not necessarily sea level. Chicago would be the Mississippi, but they're all right at water level. And these are the people that are going to be in really big trouble, because those store shelves are going to clear out in about 12 to 15 hours if you're lucky to get in there and get anything. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm
so
worried about the people that aren't prepared.
so where is, as far as you know, where is Nibiru right now? You say it's being hidden by the sun at this time. How far is it away, estimated?
I'm not exactly sure. I've been given a timeline by several people. Payne Andoff is one of them that said August 21st. And then some people have said, of course, you've heard the December 21st.
Right.
I'm not not sure, and I'm not even sure. All I know is that every day I wake up, I am so thankful that this wasn't my quake, my day, because I tell you what, you asked the people in Italy 3 weeks ago if it felt like the end of the world, and I bet you they tell you it darn sure did, And you asked Japan last year, did you feel like an apocalypse? And I bet you they say, oh my gosh, yes. A lot of people lost. And we are just beginning. We're going to have an earthquake year like you wouldn't believe. And I'm on the Pacific Northwest. I'm in the Cascades.
Well,
The geologist nightmare zone is what they
there's
call
a
it.
big faults up through there. That's
Absolutely.
There's
And
faults all over. I mean, there's really no way to
right.
get out of it.
No way to know. So I just got high and solid as best I could.
Well, what's funny is when I first started communicating with you, you never really know what people's thoughts, theories are until you get to sit down and talk to them like we are now. But
right.
at first, I kind of had the feeling that perhaps you were looking at this from a religious standpoint, because there are people, and I've interviewed them on this show, that come from a religious viewpoint. But it sounds to me like religion doesn't play into this or into your theories or thoughts at all.
Actually, no, it really doesn't. I think that what's going to happen will happen. I think that there was a creator, some sort of a supreme genius. I mean, I'm a nature girl, so when I look at ferns and, the sunset and things like that, there has to be such an artist at hand. And I think that coincides with everything. I'm just saying that the people, I'm not a religious person. I am a spiritual person.
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
Yes.
I expect when I meet my Creator, I will know instantly who He is. He will feel like my Father, and all will be well. I'm not in fear of anything. And if I go in the cleanup of my planet, wow, what a blaze! Some people just get old and wither away, and we went out in this big, huge, the biggest thing ever.
It would be apropos for people our age, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I tell you what, I watched my dad, wither away on Coumadin and just keep, bless his heart, 10 years.
Me.
And yeah, and it was so devastating. And I thought, man, I don't want to grow old and do that. I didn't dream I'd be thinking, okay, then I'll just fight Planet X,
Yeah, a big giant ball will come and smash into us.
That'll sure make Coumadin look good too, when this Planet X is coming in. But I'm not totally convinced that we can't survive. Some of us can't survive. I'm just telling you that I think it's going to be very hard. It's going to be Little House on the Prairie times 10, because Little House on the Prairie didn't have so many people, and there's a lot of people that aren't quite running around with a full deck. We see the news all the time, the people that have snapped and just had it. And I can't think of anything that would be more snapping than whether it be a true alien invasion or a fake one. I'm not saying the government might not false flag that as well, but these UFOs that we're seeing, these people are telling the truth.
Oh, absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind that these things exist. There's just too much overwhelming evidence that these things exist. I think the question is, what are they and why are they here? And those are the two questions that are now the important questions.
Right. Well, let me just ask you, if you were a reptilian, or if you were an Anunnaki, or if you were a Pleiadian, the ones with the blonde, the perfect beings, there's all types, and if you were just buzzing around in the solar system, and you knew that Nibiru was heading this way, I mean, wouldn't you want to watch that? You'd known it before, your civilization.
Absolutely. Now, I may want to watch it, but I also may want to protect it.
Well, I'm torn on that theory. I'm such an empathetic person that I'm naive to the point that I believe the good in everybody till I learn the hard way.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, so I wanted to believe the same way. And then I started thinking logically about aliens and how they abduct and how they probe and how they mutilate animals. And, I just can't find a positive vibe in them. When I think about people's abduction stories, they're on a table, there's a probe going up their nose, they're screaming in pain, they're taken in the night. Even the crop circles, they were telling us something, but they were giving us a puzzle.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
And I have a hard time rationalizing that if they were coming as spiritual, God-sent beings, why would they try to trick? Why the animal mutilations?
Well, unless they're trying to do some type of experiment to ensure that we continue to live.
And that, to me, has to be totally void of God. So I have that same issue that everyone has, rationalizing my spirituality. Because trust me, if our parents and grandparents were right, we sure don't want to be wrong about this one decision. This would mean heaven or hell.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. And so I'm trying to get all this information in my head and figure out the right path for just myself so that I make the right call at that moment when it's, whether it's go into a FEMA camp and let the government trick me into that scenario, or think that I need to get on that spaceship when really I didn't, and they were taking me to use me as some slave race. I mean, I've heard from scientists things that I couldn't have imagined 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's very true. And you know
People
what's
with years of
strange
study.
is the more that you look into this topic, into this subject, the wilder it gets.
It gets weirder and weirder
It
every
ge-
day.
exactly, and you kind of got to weed through the weird stuff, and there's always the crazies and all that. Um,
Absolutely.
but you kind of got to go through there and pick out the bits that make sense, and then start compiling some type of rational theory. Um,
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%, and I think when all the scientists are telling me that we're not going to be able to grow anything for quite a while, that there could be 150 to 250 mile an hour winds for a few months, things like that. All these, these guys study this stuff. So all I knew was just to do what they said, and they said to prepare a year's worth of food, a clean water source,
yeah. Now there's
medicine.
giant underground bunker somewhere. I
Hmm.
don't know where it's at, but they
Oh, there's
have all
a
sorts of
hundred of them or more in
seeds,
America. Right.
ungenetically altered seeds. Um, you know, and the only reason why they would be stockpiling these things is if for some giant cataclysm. There's no other
Do you know
reason.
where the biggest? Do you know where the biggest seed bank in the world is? Somewhere up in Antarctica.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one I
Yeah, they
was
dug
referring to.
this
Yeah.
great big millions and millions of dollar thing to preserve seeds. They shut down so many libraries in the past year. I mean, I think, and
Wouldn't
now, today my husband hollers at me and says, look at this TV commercial. It was about being prepared for any emergency, any natural disaster, and it said go to ready.gov. And I said, I'll be darned. It's about time they
well,
start telling us.
I know that there was some talk about uh, the government moving the capital or a lot of the buildings more inland from
To
Washington
Denver,
D.C.
the Mile High City.
Or are they going to move things to Denver? Or
They're already set up under the Denver airport.
yeah, now that's a
Have you
whole
ever
other
looked at the
discussion there as
Yeah,
well.
have you looked at that? Check that place out.
There's
Check the mural out with the dead children
yeah.
in the place. It's amazing. I mean, what are
I
you
mean, I
gonna?
would love to know the answers to all this. I mean, I would
Yeah,
love to know the answers.
I think we'll all know in one brief instant. That's what I think, and I think until then, a lot of it's speculation, but the science is real. The planet and the solar system is incoming. And now NASA's, the pictures, they're not even hiding it anymore. For a while, Google Sky, you saw the blackout, didn't you? For months, Google Sky, you couldn't even see Nibiru. There was a big void, a black void.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And now they've even removed the void. And, Donnie Adams gets some good pictures, Ursu Adams.
Well, I
If you
tell you,
ever,
this is really the first discussion, intense discussion I've had on Nibiru. I've seen it out there. I really didn't know what it was about. Um, I'll definitely want to check more into it because it is extremely fascinating. And like you say, we could
absolutely.
probably talk for hours on this. Jeana, thanks again, and good luck. And
Absolutely. It's safe for you, and stay safe, and just,
live
stay in the
life.
light.
Live life.
Absolutely. That's it. Live life and live lightly. Absolutely. Take care, Rick.
Okay, Jeana, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. This, and sure enough, it happened. So that really got me thinking, oh no, I knew there's something out there was telling us something. And I've never seen a UFO. I wait, I look. I don't need to see one to believe in them. I know they exist. You'll see in this video, if you ever do watch this Andoff gentleman, the crop circles being formed right there with nothing around them. And right after that, then they started planting the planets. They started picturing the planets, but they weren't right. The winged dragon coming in crop circles. Well, that brought up the winged planet Stitchin to me, so I read the 12th planet. And from there on, then my research took me to Marshall Masters, to Major Ed Dames, who is
Yes.
Absolutely. So all these gentlemen, George Norrie, Coast to Coast. I mean, even Alex Jones, although Alex Jones is more about the government, but now I've even come to the conclusion that, yes, our government has known about this 12th planet coming in, Nibiru. It's not actually, they call it Nibiru, but it's not actually a planet. It's a solar system.
Yeah, well, now
I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah, let me stop you there for just a second, because I really want to talk about this Nibiru, and let me tell you what I know about it, which. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for dropping in on another episode of Topic UFO. One thing I really love about this whole UFO subject is that there are just so many facets to it. You can talk about it at the global level, you can talk about it at the regional level, and then you can branch off into smaller and smaller tributaries until you finally get down to the individual. Different individuals have different thoughts and theories on what the whole UFO thing is about, what it's connected with, how it's connected. And tonight, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. So I'd like to introduce at this time Miss Jeana Taylor. And I met her through Facebook, which is very little, and then you can guide me to what's correct.
Well, like I said, I'm a student as well, but I'll do my best to tell you my comprehension. Everybody's kind of on their own with it, and that's the unfortunate thing.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
if you go out on the internet and do a search on Nibiru, you're going to get all sorts of different feedback on it. But I guess the most scientific explanation is that, like you said, this is not a planet. It was what we used to think of as Neptune, but it's actually, it sits in between the 8th and 9th orbit. And like you said, it's actually some type of planetary object that moves from planetary system.
It's an entire solar system,
and it moves.
It's coming with planets, and it's headed this direction. It's on I'm not exactly sure of the number, 3,500-year orbit or 35,100-year orbit or something. It's coming in from underneath our planet. It's hidden behind the sun right now, and in just a very short time, it's going to be visible.
She has a group page on Facebook called Truth Seekers, and I was noticing a lot of the verbiage going back and forth, the comments, and I just thought it would make for a very interesting show. So I think what we'll do at this time is just not waste any time and bring Jeana on. So Jeana, are you out there?
I sure am, Rick. Hi, it's nice to talk to you.
Thank you. It's very nice to talk to you, and thanks for agreeing to come on the show and discuss your thoughts and theories on some of the stuff that's going on in the world today.
Well, it's my pleasure. That's a big topic.
It can
Absolutely,
be,
isn't it?
It can be.
It sure is, especially right now. It seems like daily. Things are compounding, and so I'm a prepper by trade. That's what Truth Seekers started as, a page to just kind of get prepared. About a year ago, I started getting a little, I don't know, just vibe, intuition that things weren't quite right. Started searching, studying, read.
Was there anything in particular that really made you snap and start thinking about
Absolutely.
this stuff?
Payne Andov, Paneandov, his timeline of events for 2012
Ah,
was
I,
the one. Oh, yeah, it's 2.5 hours, and you won't believe it. It tells every crop circle from back. Well, I always knew that crop circles were communication. They were too intricate, and too real. They changed the DNA structure of the plant, and
wow.
even airplanes flying over the center of crop circles, pilots won't do it. Their engages and things quit working. So it's something bigger than the college students, walking in at night with a couple of 2x4s and some ropes and trying to bend a creative thing.
Yeah, I've
There were
never.
things going on. And so I started studying crop circles. I got a book on crop circles a few years ago. And I love language and words and things, and I knew that this was a language. I didn't understand it, and I still don't. But I knew it was communication. And then I started realizing it was planets. And in my search, then I found Payne Andov, or Panay, I don't know how you'll say it. I would say, I don't know where he's even from. But he's giving a speech on a timeline. He was actually abducted when he was young. And so he wrote down all these events that were going to happen. And sure as the world, they happened. And these were facts. He had put these facts out there years ago. This crop circle in 1976 was saying